You might have thought that we moved past child labor as a country. Well, maybe in some ways we did decades and decades ago, but it doesn't mean a little backsliding can't occur from time to time. Wisconsin Senate recently approved a bill just last week that would allow 14 and 15-year-olds to work until 11 p.m. on some days, much later than current laws allow. Supporters of the bill say it could help plug the state's labor shortage. Well, if you've been watching the show for a while, you know what we think about these claims about labor shortages. It doesn't seem like there's really a labor shortage, like overall. It seems like there's a labor shortage for the sort of conditions that the employers want, that the pay that they want to provide. And so you've seen in a lot of different areas them willing to make little adjustments to make sure that people stay desperate, that they fill these jobs with the sort of workers that they want, not the sort of workers that we now have. Workers who've been through a horrendous couple of years and are perhaps more in tune with the exploitation that's become so casual in the United States than ever before. They've wised up. Employers are not going to adjust casually. They're not going to offer better conditions and more pay without a fight. And this is what that fight looks like. So currently, Wisconsin has stuck to federal child labor laws, which stipulate that people under the age of 16 can only work between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. from June 1st to Labor Day, and between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. for the rest of the year. Obviously, the difference between summer and the rest of the year. So the bill would keep in place federal rules limiting teens to 3 hours of work on a school day, 8 hours on non-school days, and 6 days of work a week. How generous? How generous are they? And the new bill would not cover businesses that have annual revenues of more than 500,000 or workers involved in interstate commerce. I assume the interstate commerce part is with fears of how the Supreme Court might get involved in this. I think that those fears are misplaced. The current Supreme Court is incredibly conservative. I don't think they care if you lock a kid in a coal mine for the rest of his life. But they're at least a little bit worried in Wisconsin. And there are some people who are supportive of this. So that includes hotel and tourism industry lobbyists. Weird that they'd be on that position of this. It's currently opposed by the Wisconsin AFL-CIO, a federation of unions. So the normal sort of battle lines that you might expect here. What's interesting though is the numbers. So Wisconsin currently has nearly 3 million people in employment I believe that should be unemployment. Per preliminary August data from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, roughly as many as it did before the pandemic hit. But businesses across the state still say they're struggling to find enough workers. And so look, I have not seen a lot of states going in this particular direction. But you have seen a lot of concern about people being lazy and people expecting too much. This comes in multiple forms. You have politicians complaining about this. You have those viral posts about how Chipotle needs to close down because our workers won't show up. Well, what they don't say is that their workers won't show up for the current conditions, the current pay. And I would really hope that you'll go take a look at a video we put up on our channel just a couple of days ago. It involved an individual in Florida who decided to do an experiment. And so spent 2 months applying to 2 jobs every day and realizing that it is very difficult to get a job in these states that are supposedly so desperate for workers. But I should add a caveat. It's difficult to get a job that actually pays a meaningful wage. And here I mean just the wage that they advertise. They literally will lie in the postings. They will lie to get people to apply and then offer them lower money, saying that you can work your way up there with seniority. And oh, by the way, we know that we listed this as a full-time job that would obviously have benefits, but instead we're gonna keep you right below that and maybe someday we'll move you up to that. So those are the sorts of things that I'm so grateful that a person made that clear and that places like the Insider are giving you the results of that. But that's not what you'll see the New York Times, the Washington Post, like they're just desperate for labor. It's used to justify moves like this child labor thing because they need people who don't know. They don't know that they deserve better. They don't understand, they haven't been through the pandemic in terms of employment. And so that is what they're doing. They're willing to change the law before they're willing to actually increase your pay to make the conditions of work better. And so we'll see if this ends up actually being signed into law. We'll see if the country actually pays attention to it. It's been several days and I have not seen this widely reported. If it goes through, will other states consider this? Seems like a direction they might go in.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.